Hello and welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have all of you here. Before we get started, I want to have each of you take a moment to think about what is the most difficult part of acquiring customers using digital channels. So take a moment to think about that before we get started today. And be sure to use the Q&A section to submit questions to our speakers. So share with us again what the hardest part is of acquiring customers using digital channels. So today with me, we have two great industry leaders that are joining us, and really we want to talk about the customer acquisition journey through digital marketplaces. So our world is changing rapidly with a pandemic looming, and so is technology transformation, right? So the digital transformation in the 21st century is led by cloud-based solutions, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technologies. In the enterprise ecosystem, the opportunity is 700 billion, and 1 to 2% of that opportunity, only 1 to 2%, is made accessible for women tech founders. So today we're here to share with you best practices that you can implement starting right now. So over to these amazing industry leaders that we have joining us. We have Christine Puccio. She is F5's Global VP of Cloud Alliances and Go-to-Market Programs. She's responsible for leading a team to expand partnerships with cloud providers such as AWS, Microsoft, and Google, their partner ecosystems and GTM programs. She joins F5 through the recent acquisition of NGINX, where she joined in late 2018 from Red Hat as Vice President, Global Strategic Alliance and Partnerships. She drove increase during her tenure at Red Hat. Christine served as the Global Senior Director of AWS and Google Cloud and drove increased revenue from Red Hat's cloud computing partners. She also accelerated the growth of Red Hat's global SAP business by closing Red Hat's largest software contract with Red Hat Enterprise Linux and SAP HANA. Christine is a seasoned leader in the technology industry and was previously with companies such as Red Hat, Sun Microsystems, AT&T, and Lockheed Martin. She has extensive experience with alliances and partnerships and has successfully developed partner strategies and grown robust partner ecosystems that deliver value to both partners and customers. So welcome, Christine. We're delighted to have you here with us today. We're joined by Sanjay Mehta. He's the Chief Cloud Officer at Tackle.io. He has 25 years of experience in enterprise software, ranging from early stage companies to those operating on a global stage. He's, as I mentioned, he's the Chief Cloud Officer at Tackle, and he's working to transform the way that enterprise software is procured through more modern digital sales channels. More recently, he held executive positions in the US and overseas in sales and leadership and global alliances for Trend Micro, where he helped establish Trend as a dominant global force in cloud security. Sanjay is recognized as a leader in digital selling and has a deep understanding of the transformational journey of selling and buying software in cloud marketplaces. Sanjay is a board member for Girls in Tech and an active voice for closing the gender gap in the tech industry. So welcome, Sanjay. And Christine and Sanjay are here with us to share about the power of digital marketplaces and digital sales strategies. So you're in for a treat today as we go through today's session. Again, don't hesitate to share your questions in the chat. We will be sure to get to those at the end of our panel discussion today. I'm Raisa Noel. I'm the Global Events Program Lead of Women in Cloud. And Women in Cloud is a community-led economic development organization to create $1 billion in economic access for female tech founders. And we're focused on economic development organization, and we focus on 3 areas. First, we focus on female tech entrepreneurship and innovation to foster economic development in the enterprise ecosystem. Second, to build partnership with Fortune brands, entrepreneurs, and communities to create tech employability for women. And third, to drive nonpartisan political advocacy to advance policies that create and retain economic access for women. So that's a little bit about all of us. And to start things off today, I want to get to know both of the presenters joining us today, so that our audience can get to know you as well. So let's go around, and I know I've shared about your roles already, but you can continue to share a little bit more about yourselves. And I want to invite you to answer a little icebreaker question to get us started. So that question would be, if you had unlimited time and resources, how would you spend your days? Christine, let's start with you.
I think it would be spending more time with my daughter. Just little things like just watching her favorite shows. We've been doing that a little bit lately. And then travel. I would love to travel. We used to do that. I'm hoping to get back to that sometime soon. So
yes, I hear you. I miss airports.
Yeah.
Sanjay, how about yourself?
Yeah, probably similar. And I'd like to think I've been better at it the last few years, but I've been working really hard to try to make EQ and IQ have equal parts in my life and the way I balance it. And I find that there's actually a lot of time if you're just really intentional about how you spend it. So I used to do that really, really poorly, I think, and I'm getting better at it. So unlimited time might just create another problem for me, but yeah, it's similar, just trying to be present in everything I do and really enjoy those things. And I'd love to get on the road and meet Christine in person one day instead of just doing
Yes, yes, it's overdue. We're going to make that happen someday soon, hopefully. So let's dive into our discussion today. I see some comments are already coming through in the Q&A. So let's start off with a question for you, Christine, and then I'll go over to you, Sanjay. So first up, what would you say, Christine, is the hardest part of acquiring customers using digital channels?
We talked earlier about this. You could go one or two ways. You can put up a listing on Marketplace and hope people will come. That's one strategy. I have to admit, I think we did that in the early days, but I think it comes down to what kind of solution do you have and what is your customer acquisition strategy, and then put yourself in the shoe of the customer, and where does that customer go to find information, and how can you add value during that customer journey? So it's really about segmentation and then understanding, how software is acquired by that customer set.
Absolutely, absolutely agree, Christine. Sanjay, what about you? What's the hardest thing you would say about acquiring customers with digital channels?
Yeah, I think I'd start by really looking at where you are as a business. So if you're an early stage company, maybe been around a year or two, and you're trying to establish new customer relationships, trying to leverage the cloud providers to get there, I think that's one problem set. I'll come back to that. And then if you're an established vendor and you've been around a long time, maybe decades, like my last organization, global presence, thousands of employees, thousands of existing channels, the transition to digital sales, right, from a more traditional model to digital sales is a painful one. So in the first camp, I would look at a very external view of the world and say, what am I offering? How is it different? And what's the unique value to the cloud provider I'm trying to latch to through that digital marketplace, right? What's the customer journey? What transformation are they going through? What's unique and special that I can add and build a recipe on? And then get others to be doing some of the selling and evangelizing for me. So building out that reference architecture, that use case, and everything else, and then promoting that through digital means. If you're an established vendor, I think the problem is actually mostly internal. And it comes down to the same thing we face with our children every day, which is behavior change, which is really, really hard sometimes. But if you've done things the same way for a long period of time, whether that's how your sellers sell, how your buyers buy, how your channels get involved, how your order management teams look at things, right? Problems startups don't necessarily have because they're inventing all of that. Then I think your problem is like 50% or more internal. So I would just look at where you are, how you need to navigate internally and externally, and go from there.
That's a great response, Sanjay, and I took away from that a little bit as well, that people really shouldn't fear change, right? And lean in and get their team as well to be on board with the changes that are necessary in this day and age. So let's go to Christine. What would you say is the current process that you're using to drive customer acquisition and while leveraging digital marketing?
So, I think we talked about this earlier. We're looking at it more from a digital sale perspective. So, and I use the phone, the long distance phone company method of looking at our customers and seeing, how are they spending their money with us on Marketplace, and how can we help them in that journey, and can we save them money, and having a conversation with existing customers that we have. Before, we've been using just, digital media, social media in order to drive awareness. But I think for us, we really, once again, going back to, and I'm in a larger company, so this doesn't really resonate with a smaller, where you're more nimble. But I have to look at, how we are marketing to our customer, so we're not saturating the customer with a bunch of different messaging, and how we're incorporating, Marketplace as another option for a customer to get information. And we've just started now adding in more how-to videos, more around, how to deploy our software, in the cloud on the listing itself. So what can we do to provide as much content and information as possible, so that they could, any customer going there can, make a choice on, and have as much information as possible. So we take really the person out of it. And it's more just more research for the customer to do.
Excellent. I'm hearing, I think a value that you're expressing is giving that customer confidence as well, which is really important. So Sanjay, what are your thoughts there? What processes are you using at Tackle?
Sure. So at Tackle, we're actually a relatively small company. We're a Series B funded, venture-backed firm. We're growing fast, so maybe 108, 110 people, depending on what happened today. So going quickly, but we're essentially creating a category around digital selling, leveraging these marketplaces. And we focus a lot on that experience. And we do a lot with, kind of building the industry and the talk around it. So we are really heavy in digital marketing and social selling, if you will. And if you look at it from a lot of product companies, they're pivoting to a product-led growth strategy, where instead of going out and employing a big sales force to go out and talk to customers and run proof of concepts and to defeat competition, they're leading with product, and they're finding easy ways through digital marketing and digital selling means, and some of the stuff Christine talked about, to let customers discover and get great information and trial and evaluate products in their own environments before they have to make a purchase decision. So in a similar way, while Tackle has a SaaS platform, the other thing we have is a ton of knowledge around marketplaces. And it's still a really young field, as you alluded to, right? Maybe 1-2% of the overall B2B software supply chains flowing through these marketplaces. So we've assembled 100 and something people out of maybe 200 on the planet that are really, really good at this. So we pump a lot of that knowledge back out into our digital marketing to just help everybody get more educated and think about the personas that get touched in this journey as companies embrace digital. And we just want to be thought leaders. So we use that thought leadership as in our intellectual capital, almost like a product-led growth strategy.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Sanjay. So using that strategy sounds, very successful. Loving how you are kind of taking the lead in that space as well at Tackle, which is very, exciting. So let's talk about next how, because we all know, and we've said, early on in this session, that marketplaces are really shaping the new game planning for B2B customer acquisition, right? There's a whole new landscape that we're coming upon. So what are your strategies, Christine, we'll start with you, for driving the marketplace as core to digital selling?
Sure. I always say I stumbled upon building a digital channel. We started on the journey really looking at a lot of the tools and resources that AWS had put into their marketplace, right? They invested a lot into that platform. And, if you look at, Azure Marketplace and you look at GCP, they're also investing a lot of money into those platforms, but not all of them operate the same. So the complexity, we've had to deal with that complexity a little bit of how we look at each different marketplace. And what I'm realizing is that as we open up the ecosystem to be included into that marketplace, they're dealing with the same complexity across all. So for us as a team, we looked at, well, how can we better serve not just our customers, but our ecosystem and our channel partners along the way? And we thought, why not make it easy? And so really that's our value proposition is, come to us, we will make that easy for you. And we've piloted for the past year, how to look at annual and multi-year contracts through each of the cloud providers' marketplaces. There were some recent announcements with Microsoft that they're lowering their fees and that they're looking at extending the channel. So the behavior, you get to look at the behavior of the cloud providers, and if they're putting their money and their time and their efforts into building that platform, my gosh, what a great opportunity to leverage that R&D. And so that's really what our strategy is how do we leverage that R&D and the relationships that we've built with those providers, and how can we extend ease of use to not just our customers, but to our fellow travelers and to our channel.
Yeah, you made some really, really great points there, Christine. Especially about making it easy. I find that a lot of companies seem to almost fear that for some reason, and then the making it easy piece ties into really creating access for folks, and making it accessible, approachable, attainable. Right. So Sanjay, in regards to digital selling as well, what are your strategies that are driving the marketplace as core there?
Yeah, at Tackle, we like to say we drink our own champagne. So almost all the business we do is through the marketplaces, all the big ones. And it helps us help our own customers, our ISVs, ranging from small startups to some of the biggest companies in the world, do the same. So navigating the likes of an AWS and a Microsoft and Google isn't easy, right? There are potentially hundreds or thousands of folks that could influence your fate positively or negatively. And on the one hand, it can be really daunting, right? You go out into these marketplaces and you see thousands of vendors listing maybe 7, 8, 10,000 products. And you think, how am I going to get my voice heard? But it's really early days, as we pointed out. But the good news is that to Christine's point about investment, the investment's been there from the cloud providers, and the customer uptake is actually pretty tremendous, early, but tremendous. So some of the biggest brands on the planet have already pivoted towards marketplace buying, and the wave is going. So really what you need to do is position your surfboard in the right place to get ahead on that wave. So it gets back to the cloud providers want to deliver customer outcomes, and they can't do it all themselves, right? If you're at an AWS or a Microsoft, and you're part of a marketplace team, or maybe a storage team, or maybe a compute team, you're competing against 200 other teams for resources. And not everything's going to get done. Not everything's going to get funded, which leaves rooms for the rest of us in the ecosystem to say, what's being missed? That's what Tackle did. We spotted an opportunity that said, these marketplaces are awesome for buyers and sellers, but there's this wedge here that needs to be put in place for it to be successful. And we went after that wedge. So whatever area of the market you're in, if you're in IoT or in blockchain or in this or in that, as you mentioned, figure out how that provides that value to the cloud provider. And don't just get into the marketplace, actually get into the hearts and minds of their organization. Figure out who's stumbling to navigate some of those issues with their customers. And how do you come up with a consistent recipe to help that? And then propagate that. I think frequently when people think about the cloud providers, they say, how do I market through the cloud provider? But just as much of the problem is how do I market to the cloud provider so they understand my value and then they want to take that message out.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what I want to move to next actually is Christine. I know that F5 has been going through some very exciting changes, and F5 has adopted a marketplace for driving B2B sales. I want you to take some time to talk to us a bit about that, and what are the challenges and some of the best practices that you can share.
Well, I'll talk about an experience this morning. So within F5, our traditional selling motion has been hardware and then also software. And so our tools and our systems are put in place to sell a certain way. And so when you look at introducing something like Marketplace or looking at doing something unique, like what we're doing with private offers or we're doing with annual multi-year contracts, something as small as putting fields into your CRM system or being able to look at back-end quoting becomes troublesome because you're building on top of a system that was there years ago. So I'm happy to say we had a few breakthroughs. But it's those things like that with a company that's going through transition. And Sanjay, you talked about that a little bit at your time in your previous role at a different company. It's, not only do you have to win the hearts and minds of people internally, but I become almost a politician to try and get change to systems, to processes, to operations, to onboarding, the team that handles the channel community. So it's a lot of work. And somebody had asked me, Christine, who owns Marketplace at F5? I'm like, about 10 different organizations internally. That's who owns Marketplace. And so having that belief that you need to really bring on your champions in each of those different organizations that play a role. I think that to me has been the earlier challenges. And now we're starting to see a really nice swift move to getting our business really stood up. So.
I'd love to follow that up. So thanks for sharing that that story too. So, and I think you touched a little bit on why you believe that this is the right direction for your business. Can you expand on it a little bit more?
Yeah, our customers in general want software fast, and they want to get to that outcome quicker. And so how do I help that customer deliver that? And really it's through a digital channel. It's being able to, we had an example of a customer had a security threat, and we were able to get them a quote. We were able to process the order, and they were able to start standing up the security solution in 5 hours. That is the beauty of a digital channel, being able to service your customer who has a problem to get to that outcome quicker.
Yeah, agreed. The speed of execution is really one of the key benefits of embracing the digital selling and digital marketplaces. Along with, I know that both of you actually mentioned the power of embracing those that you partner with. I think that's very, very key as well to driving results in any aspect of business. Really, don't be, again, tying back to not being afraid to lean in and almost, I would say ask for help applies to this conversation, right? So going to the next question, Sanjay, let's start with you here. So how would you say that companies adopt digital marketplaces as a core customer acquisition channel?
Yeah, and Christine touched on it a bit. I think a lot of it comes down to conviction and belief that this is going to happen. And while Christine, I think, is humble and says 10 people own the marketplace, the reality is she owns the marketplace strategy in F5. And, well, I joke, it's really, really important, which is when everybody owns it, nobody really owns it. And right. I think the reason it's working for F5, because we follow F5 pretty closely at Tackle, is that Christine's a strong executive champion who has the permission to break glass and make change. Respectfully, of course. And when you don't do that, we see a lot of folks fail and they really struggle. So I think getting executive buy-in is always important, and particularly important in marketplaces, and making sure you want to treat it strategically and you believe in that channel and you believe it's going to be big. And then you have to have it, we call it a chief cloud officer at Tackle. Christine's got her own title, but essentially we're in the same role, which is we're the folks who own getting it done and getting it done well. So that's important. And then I think it's really important that you don't just think of it as another channel. If you take your old practices, if you're a startup today, the reality is all the people in your startup, most of them at least, were probably not fresh out of college, and they've had old practices that they've just brought over, and you got to teach those dogs new tricks, right? So you've got to look at it fresh. And if you say, this is just one more channel partner and I'm going to take my channel team and make this 10% of their job, it's not going to work. It's going to fundamentally change every aspect of your business. So you have to have that level of conviction as well. So, I would say, and I guess the final thing I'd say is Jim Collins wrote a great book called Turning the Flywheel, and he talks about bullets before cannonballs, which essentially means don't get too excited too fast, right? Like perfect some recipes, fire a few bullets, try a few different strategies out, hypothesis validation. And once you get a recipe, then go big. And we do see a lot of folks who show up and go, I want to be experts at digital selling, and to me, that means cloud marketplace. So I want to be in all the marketplaces all at once. And I guarantee you will fail. Well, that's great money for Tackle. We actually encourage people not to do that because they're not going to have a great customer experience. So be really specific about what marketplaces you want to get in, how are you going to align with that cloud partner, and what those outcomes are, and then extend with success, not too early.
I love that. And being very intentional about who you do business with, really, because it is a collaborative sort of mutually beneficial relationship that you're developing there. And the same thing I would say even for entrepreneurs going into like investor relationships, right? Mm-hmm. If you think in that, use that same mindset and not just be all grabalicious to get on every sort of every marketplace, as you just echoing what you said, Sanjay, there's no value in it. The outcome will not, it'll muddy the waters really. And your alignment won't be very clear. So Christine, what's your response here? How would you say that companies can adopt digital marketplaces as their core customer acquisition channel?
Well, I was going to say, like, Sanjay's been in the sausage making with me with F5, and I have to tell you, when you read my bio, I've been in the industry a long time, and so I do have an old playbook. And you have to scrap it. You have to be humble. You have to let go of your ego, and you also have to be willing to listen to other people that maybe live outside of your organization. I have probably learned more about operations in the past year than I ever thought that I would ever learn about sales operations. And it's been wonderful. And so, we did trial a few things and we bumped into a few walls. And in fact, I told my team, you have full permission to, bump into a wall or two to figure this out. We also were sprinkled on with a few acquisitions, company acquisitions. That's when I was like, okay, Uncle, I'm calling Tackle because I need some help. We really didn't try to look at every marketplace the same. We started with one and we said, let's figure this out a little bit. And then now we'll use that as a baseline for a few others. And that's worked really well. But, take away the ego, take away the playbook, take away, this is how we used to do it. If somebody on my team says, well, that's not how we used to do it, it's like, oh my gosh. You have to just look at this with like full creativity, a blank canvas.
Excellent. Very, very well said, Christine. And I think your two responses, Christine and Sanjay, really throughout this whole panel so far, I mean, really very like complement each other so well. So to our final question to each of you before we start taking a few from the audience that's joining us today. Sanjay, what would you say are some tangible steps that companies can take today to embark on this journey?
I'd start by really figuring out what segment you're trying to address. Right? What's not your go-to-market motion, but where are you trying to direct it? And then I would look and say, who are the folks in the ecosystem that are already playing there that I can leverage, right? It's hard to get a voice as a small company. But if you can figure out how to be a barnacle on a whale that's moving really fast, you're in great shape. So I'd figure out what's the market I'm trying to address and who's best at it. And how do I stand on the shoulder of those giants to get my own voice heard and to get my company noticed. And then I would spend a lot of time understanding, how does that giant do business, right? What is their route to market? Because there's a good chance that whether you're a small company or a large company, you're not as big as the cloud providers, and you're not going to mimic their organization. But understand it and understand what areas of that organization are best suited to help you. And then make sure you understand how they win. A very frequent problem is people go with their hands out and they look for the cloud providers to help them, and they forget. I was on a call the other day with somebody, and he said, you're a shiny quarter in a bucket full of shiny quarters. So how do you stand out and make sure that your shiny quarter is valuable for them? He does a podcast called Ultimate Guide to Partnerships, a great guy. Free plug for him. But I would make sure you know why it's good for the cloud provider, not just good for you, and why it's good for their customer, not just good for the cloud provider, right? Go all the way through the value chain. And then I'd attack it, and I'd be brave, and I'd be bold, and I'd have Christine's attitude that you're going to get gray hair and most of it will fall out, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to learn a lot. And I would just get started. I think the world of software development has gone to this world of quick pivots and agile development and MVPs, minimal viable products. And that's the way to go. Like, fail fast, right? Get started, fail fast, build recipes, and go from there. But be brave, be bold. Like, it's a great time, and digital sales and digital marketing are an amazing opportunity to reach an audience that you wouldn't have dreamed of 10 years ago, right? It would have taken you 20 years to build a company that had that kind of reach. So take advantage of it.
Great. Thank you, Sanjay. Christine, how about you? What would be a step or two that you would say companies can take today to get started?
I don't know. I think Sanjay really said it well. One of the things that I looked at was how the cloud providers structured their business around marketplaces. How did they succeed in this business? And I would, be a learner, understand a bit more, do research, and I like, for example, I think AWS has done a fantastic job of operationalizing a lot of marketplace. But then you have Microsoft, who's always done a fantastic job of marrying up the co-sell with the marketplace. Like, there's so many good things. We were just on a call with Google, and they had a meeting with us to look at best practices and how we could provide feedback into their roadmap. And so it's like all of those things. I kind of think maybe we should be thinking about how our customers can feed back into our roadmap for marketplace. Like, there's really good best practices if you really sit back and view what each provider is doing on behalf of their customer. I think that's one of the things that I would go on, do a listening tour for each provider.
That's great advice. And I know when we were preparing for this discussion, we talked a little bit about any sort of resources that you would recommend. Do either of you have some kind of a tool or a playbook or something that I know, Sanjay, you referenced some podcasts and books, something that our listeners can turn to that would provide additional value to them from this from this conversation?
Sanjay, I'm going to plug the Tackle.io website.
Perfect. We love that.
Honestly, they have the cloud report. They have the marketplace report. They've done extensive research. I've gotten a lot from that myself. You know, I've read a lot of those blogs and a lot of the articles. There's been a lot of investment into that. And personally, I find that very, very valuable. You know, and so I thought I would plug your website because I've gotten a lot of value from that.
Awesome.
Great recommendation.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And our website's actually full of great stories from folks like Christine. So we do, after spending a long time in security where no customer wanted to talk about their security solution, at Tackle, all our customers want to talk about their marketplace journey. So it's awesome. And you'll find lots of things we've written in blogs and guides on how to marketplace well and persona-based stuff. But I think more importantly, you'll find a lot of information and videos and webinars from folks like Christine that have been on the journey. If you're a young company and you're a SaaS company, I love the content that SaaStr puts out. I think it's a great place to learn amongst your peers. So I would encourage you to do that. And then I think anything you can figure out on, if you want to do business with Microsoft, go get Azure certified. If you want to do a business with AWS, go get AWS certified. While there are a lot of commonalities, the language is different, the approach is different. So I would certainly use the things they put out there as guides. AWS, I think is out there now, is launching kind of a how do you marketplace correctly, right? Or how do you do it with them correctly? So just sponge up everything you can. And I think the great thing about this community is it is young and everybody wants to talk and share, right? So if you're thinking about a digital selling journey, go figure out who's great at it and reach out to them on LinkedIn and ask to share knowledge or to just sponge up knowledge. And I think in the early days of category creation like this, everybody wants to support the community because we all rise up. So I would be bold and do that every day you can.
I love that. And at Women in Cloud, we have kind of a slogan that we use often. Economic access is the tide that lifts all boats, and together we rise. So I think that ties into what you said, Sanjay, really, really well. So now I want to take it over to some questions that we've had coming from the audience. So the first one is from someone that says, I don't know potential customers enough and very likely not able to until I establish in-person connections with them through sales, for example. So how would you recommend that I bridge that gap? I still find in-person meetings and through connections are the best way to introduce my services to potential customers. So either of you want to take a response there to how to bridge that gap?
Yeah, I might take a controversial answer, which is I'm not sure that's the way the customer wants to talk to you. Right? And more and more customers are moving towards, from a very high touch sale to a very low touch or even purely tech touch sale. And there's some great writings about this that you can find. But customers want to go on a journey, and some of the big industry analysts will tell you by the time they talk to the vendor, they're 70% of the way through the process. They've evaluated multiple solutions, they're down selecting, and now they want to talk to you maybe to figure out the specifics of a deployment in their environment, to their architecture, or how you comply with a certain regulation, or maybe just want to talk about an enterprise deployment and a great discount. But they've done a lot of that work. So I would really take a look back and saying, are you making yourself available to your customers in the way they want you to be available? And maybe you got to change. I think the pandemic proved out that you don't need to send a salesperson, an SE, a solution architect, and the local vice president all into a building or a data center to make a sale. And customers were fine, and the stock market boomed, and software suppliers did well. So the new paradigm is working, and I think you got to embrace it.
Right. I would just add to that and say, almost if you look at business relationships, it's almost like what has come about from the pandemic and moving to low touch or no touch, business development or partnership development is really the way forward. And people, just like you're saying, Sanjay, people have, there's so much noise in the market, And like you said, they would have done their research by the time they get to you anyway. So making yourself stand out and being able to stand out in that digital space as that shiny quarter in the bucket of shiny quarters, right? So I think that's a great answer. Christine, what would you recommend?
And I love those points too, by the way, Sanjay, because we're actually even revamping how we look at our listings, right? To be more interactive with the customer, so we could take a step back. You could also use, if you really enjoy in-person meetings, set up 10 customer appointments and ask very pointed questions in more of an advisory role, and ask, how do you like to gain information on any type of software product that you're looking at? Be more curious about how they get information. I remember we went and visited a customer. It was a couple of years ago when we actually could fly and visit customers. But we were talking to an executive, and they had 22,000 applications within their company. And I'm thinking to myself, how does that happen? It couldn't even, put my head around it, because of years ago software selling, I think it was, a handful. And so there's this chaotic, homegrown development. And so it's understanding really where is the customer at with their development, and how do they like to acquire information, and what is the best fit for them? So take more of an advisory role.
Right. And, the business relationship is the same as, or not the same as, very similar to other relationships, right? You want to have an understanding, and it's not, Christina, I like what you said, continuing to support that, having an advisory conversation rather than being very take. Here's what, creating that give and get access, right? To make that conversation really stick out. How can you do business better by working together?
Yeah, especially in the early stages of building a business, having that sense of curiosity is so key, because the customers will be very honest, because they want something, they want easy. They don't want to buy software. They want to hire it. I always say this. They want to hire it to do a job. So how do you fill that position quickly? And they'll let you know.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I'd advise, if to the person who asked the question, clearly they're a great relationship builder and they want to get in person to do that, and probably create some pretty differentiated relationships. So how do you help your customers that you have already? How do you give them a platform to tell your story, like Christine's telling for Tackle, which is amazing, and we're so fortunate to have folks like that. But a lot of folks want to go out and share their success and talk about it. So if you've got only 5 customers today, really nurture those 5 and get them to be your advocates out there. And maybe that can play to your strength a little bit, but also take it into some digital means and some maybe less traditional means for you. And you'll get a little comfortable being uncomfortable in those things. That leverage at least a bit of what you have today.
Excellent responses. So let's go to the next question from the audience. Is there a place in the digital marketplace for solutions that are a combination of software and service? We're finding most SaaS solutions we deploy are deployed as a managed offering, but it is hard for us to think about how labor is through a digital marketplace. That we need to help them deploy. That is okay. It's a bit more. Okay, so that it is okay not to just fully download the solution in the marketplace, but not sure how to move forward when it's not 100% digital software to download as the product.
I would say the answer is it depends. Not all marketplaces are created equally. Some do support services offerings now, and services attach. And I think as the next 12 to 24 months goes, I think you'll see a lot of this, because that's what customers want. They want bundled solutions, not haphazard picking and trying to match. So the marketplaces are moving aggressively this way. You've seen announcements from AWS maybe almost a year ago. You've seen more recent announcements from Microsoft. Google has some really strong partnerships that are SaaSifying applications and whatnot. So if you really understand that ecosystem and who's in the middle of it, I think you'll be in good shape. You may not have exactly what you need today, but I don't think it's too far away in terms of waiting. And the other thing you do is fulfill some of it through digital sales and some of it through the more traditional channel, right? Just because marketplaces came up, the thousands and thousands of channel partners around the world didn't go away, and they still have amazing customer relationships. So it may be a little bit kludgy from a procurement perspective for the customer, but you can still put the right pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sanjay. Anything you want to add there, Christine?
No, I mean, we just recently added a consulting listing on AWS because of the announcement I think that Sanjay alluded to last year. And you see a lot more, you see, from global system integrators having, their services on there. And so, and once again, we're seeing a transformation happen within marketplaces of not being strictly software, but also adding in services. And so you can see how this is starting to move, and it really is a more B2B relationship more than a software to shopping cart relationship. So I think that there's room to play there.
Great, thank you. So we did have one more question, and Sanjay, I know you're a part of a young women STEM group as well. So I'm going to have you answer this. And then Christine, you're actually on the board of advisors for Women in Cloud. So both of you could have a say here. So the question is, how do we really get women and young girls involved in technology in developing countries, such as Guyana? We have some STEM clubs and associations such as Girls in Tech, but how do we become a part of the advocacy build?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a lot of people are wrestling with it all around the world, and I'm delighted to hear you're working with Girls in Tech as they expand to a lot of developing countries. Huge focus on Africa this year and whatnot. So, but I like the angle too, right? It's so easy to be a consumer of those things and try to take those programs, but it's an extra step to try to say, what can I do and how can I do my own part? And I think it can start in your own community, right? And with the people who have the time and the energy and the passion to go do it. And I think, again, start small, right? If in my last organization, we built the first cybersecurity school in Egypt, because we had a passionate executive who was Egyptian, and he said, I'm going to go do this. So figure out what is the niche you need to fill. Is it a particular programming language? Is it cybersecurity? Is it this or that? And then who are the experts I can bring to bear? And then what are the resources, financial or otherwise, I can bring to bear, and plant a seed and grow it from there. But and again, don't be afraid that it might fail. I think when you start something for the first time, I've learned that you should assume you're going to disappoint yourself, because you're dreaming so big and the results might be so small, but there's such an important seed to get to where you're going to be in 5 years. So just calibrate yourself on what those results might be a little bit and prepare to not quite reach the stars, but get started and then just cultivate it.
What a beautiful answer. Oh my goodness.
I don't know if I follow that up.
That's like a viral response. Come on, Christine. You got this.
Well, I mean, so when I started on the Women in Cloud board, I think over a year ago, and I've seen so many programs being rolled out just from when we had the kickoff. I think it was in 2020 when we had our big summit in person, to where it is now, like the Cloud Accelerate Her. There's so many programs that Women in Cloud have for just younger entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. I've just seen such a growth spurt happen within the community. The thing that I love most about working within Women in Cloud is I just love the people on the board and the people in the group. But I really like to have one-on-one discussions with companies that are really trying to figure something out and just trying to help. And so maybe that's what I would do if I had a lot of spare time, is that I just really love helping, women entrepreneurs and even younger kids on how they could get into tech. And I think it's, when we think of high tech, we think of coding and we think of engineering and we think of, product management, but there's so many other roles and so many other jobs within high tech, marketing, sales. And so it's just opening up that aperture for younger kids and younger girls and women to understand that there's much more to play in high tech.
Thank you so much. And to add to that, I'll share a bit more about some opportunities that we have within Women in Cloud a bit later. But to touch on I think Sanjay, you made a point earlier about skilling in Azure, right? So at Women in Cloud, this just recently we have 625 sponsorships available for women seeking Azure skilling and Azure fundamentals, and it's open worldwide, right? So, and then in addition to that, how I was saying earlier about how the pandemic has, kind of in certain ways expanded us, right? And we've been able to, with our Cloud Accelerator program, for example, when we just prior to the pandemic, we had expanded in partnership with Microsoft to 8 additional countries, but now we're fully global. And we're able to have that connection and have sessions with industry leaders like Sanjay and Christine in an intimate digital setting with our women tech founders that are looking to build and grow their businesses using digital marketplaces, becoming enterprise ready, understanding how to build and nurture those relationships for enterprise, finding investors and funding. So there's a lot of different areas out there. And to those of you that are watching, I encourage you to learn more at womencloud.com and join us on the WIC Digital Network. So as we close, again, thank you so much to Christine and Sanjay. Just a few closing points I want to leave all of you with. So you would have started today thinking probably in the mindset of using that traditional digital journey, right? Going from just thinking from the basic sense of website or business listing, a digital strategy and business model, SEO optimization, newsletter-based email, investing in social media, digital advertising, and events. But today, we hope to have shared with you really the win-win of cloud marketplaces and express that there is value in considering which marketplaces you want to be a part of, and understand that it drives faster procurement. You can accelerate and get larger deals. And for the buyers as well, it gives them faster access. They want to, as Christine said, buy something to actually do the job, right? So we hope that you've learned that today. And we want you to keep in mind 5 habits of really strong business leaders who pivoted to kind of that new customer acquisition model. You have to have that digital ready mindset. Embrace that digital customer acquisition mindset. Make sure that you're investing in the right tools, the right processes, and the right people so that you can pivot to these new marketing models. And take time to test, right? Just as Sanjay said, trying out the recipes, trying to achieve those metrics that really matter, and develop an access-based digital customer acquisition model. That ease of access, as Christine expressed, is key and vital in this transition for that customer acquisition model. And focus on the metrics that really matter here. The access, opportunities, and action. Keep those things in mind and those 5 habits to get you transition from the traditional digital journey to the new digital journey. So your thoughts should be now having a digital strategy and business model, an access-focused website, investing in digital marketplaces, access-focused email campaigns, participating and investing in community-focused events, investing in social media, and digital advertising for scaling. Okay, so I hope that you have had some takeaways from today's session and some clear actions that you can take and execute within the next 30 days. Like, get started. What's holding you back? Don't let anything stand in your way. So again, I want to thank our speakers for joining us, and I'll close with just letting you know of a few upcoming events and opportunities that we have as a part of Women in Cloud that you are welcome to take advantage of. So tomorrow on August 13th, we have 2 sessions that will be happening. We're going to have an open house for the WIC Microsoft Cloud Accelerator. The 6.0 cohort is launching for our award-winning Cloud Accelerator, our Microsoft Cloud Accelerator. So you can come to the open house, get your questions answered about if this would be the right fit for you and your business. Then we also have the WIC Fortune 100 Lunch and Learn with Accenture, where you'll have the opportunity to meet with key Accenture leaders and participate in advisory roundtable discussions, learn about the available job opportunities. Christine touched on this as well. You know, it's not all high tech. There's many different jobs available, and you'll be able to talk about that with the Accenture team and learn how to navigate that company and hear about their commitment to DEI and strategic partnering. As I mentioned, the 6.0 Cloud Accelerator cohort is launching soon, and the deadline to apply for that is August 20th. You'll see down below in the resources, you can easily access that application. And one of our signature events, WIC UNGA, is coming up on October 14th and 15th. That's where we're going to be accelerating the 2030 UN Sustainable Development Goals through digital transformation, economic opportunity, global inclusivity, and leadership development. So be sure to save the date, more information coming soon on that. And as a part of WIC UNGA, we're going to have another Cloud Innovator Pitch Challenge, which is really focused on innovative cloud solutions developed by women tech founders that focus on one or more of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So applications are now open for that. Go ahead and register, enter for your chance to win $5,000 in cash and cloud credits and be showcased on a global stage. And finally, we've told you about Women in Cloud. There's opportunities if you're looking for jobs. We have companies that are actively seeking diverse candidates. You can join the WIC Cloud Accelerator, become engaged in the community, meet with leaders like Christine and Sanjay, and get more access to professional growth and connections. And we invite you again to join us in the WIC Digital Network, where you connect with other members of the community, like-minded women tech founders, and just get access to opening doors and creating economic access for women in tech. So again, I want to thank all of you, to thank our speakers. Thank you so much for taking the time out today. And thank you everybody in the audience for joining us. This recording will be available on demand on our Bright Talk channel. So feel free to stop back and watch it again. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.